The daughter of a millionaire and the son of a single mother became best friends, bringing their parents closer until an unexpected love blossomed between them. Secrets came to light, and their lives changed forever. A story of friendship and true love. Get ready, because this story will touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment on where you are watching from. The March sun warmed the streets of Beverly Hills when fate decided to intertwine two completely opposite lives. The deafening noise of traffic on the Pacific Coast Highway echoed in the distance, blending with the sounds of honking horns and engines that composed the urban symphony of Los Angeles. In the elegant residential complex on Gabriel Montero da Silva Avenue, where each apartment cost more than many people would earn in a lifetime, a pink ball rolled innocently toward the main gate. 7-year-old Isabella Johnson chased after the ball, her imported sneakers hitting the immaculate pavement. Her blonde hair swayed in the wind as she shouted, "Come back here, stubborn ball!" The girl didn't notice that the gate was ajar or that her ball had escaped into the busy street. Her blue eyes sparkled with the typical determination of someone who had never encountered a real obstacle in her few years of life. On the other side of the same street, pedaling a faded green bicycle he had received from a neighbor, Gabriel Smith handled a plastic bag full of crushed cans. The 10-year-old boy had calloused hands for his age and a more mature gaze than he should have. His clothes, though clean and well kept by his mother, showed signs of heavy use and some careful patches. "Just 5 more cans, and I can buy milk for the baby," he murmured to himself, focused on his mental calculations. The accident happened in a split second. Isabella ran after the ball, just as Gabriel turned the corner, pedaling against traffic to shorten the route to the junkyard. The sound of the bicycle brakes mixed with the girl's sharp scream and the screeching sound of tires skidding on the pavement. The black Tesla of Rodrigo Mendez, 38, stopped inches from the two. The businessman jumped out of the car with his heart racing, his tailored suit wrinkled from the rush. His dark eyes, usually cold and calculating in Silicon Valley meetings, now displayed pure panic. "Isabella! My God, are you okay?" he shouted, running toward his daughter. The girl was on the ground, more scared than hurt, with tears streaming down her rosy face. Gabriel had managed to throw his bicycle aside but had scraped his knee, with cans scattered across the sidewalk. "Daddy, I just wanted to get my ball," Isabella sobbed, reaching out her arms to her father. Rodrigo enveloped her in a protective hug, smelling the soft scent of children's shampoo mixed with fear. For a moment, his executive mind stopped functioning, and he was just a desperate father who had almost lost what he cherished most. "Did you get hurt, boy?" Rodrigo asked Gabriel, still trying to process what had happened. Gabriel slowly got up, wiping the blood from his knee with his shirt sleeve. His brown eyes met Isabella's, and instead of anger or fear, there was only genuine concern. "I'm fine, girl, but the girl is crying a lot. Did she get hurt?" The simple, empathetic question touched something deep in Rodrigo's heart. This boy, who clearly had nothing, was more worried about the well-being of a stranger than about his own injuries. "Isa, this boy saved you. If it weren't for him breaking in time..." Rodrigo couldn't finish the sentence. Isabella stopped crying and looked at Gabriel with curiosity. She had never seen a child like him, with simple clothes and dirty hands, but with a gentle smile that made her feel safe. "Thank you for saving me," she said, her voice still choked. "What's your name?" "Gabriel. Gabriel Smith," the boy replied, a bit awkward with the attention. "I'm Isabella Johnson. Do you want to come into my building to clean your scrape? My nanny has Band-Aids." It was at that moment that fate planted the first seed of a friendship that would change everything. Rodrigo watched the interaction between the children with a mix of admiration and unease. As a businessman, he was used to quickly assessing people, and there was something special about that boy. "Where is your mother, Gabriel?" Rodrigo asked. Working. She cleans buildings in Silicon Valley. She only comes back at night, Gabriel replied without embarrassment. The words hit Rodrigo like a punch to the stomach. While he commanded one of the largest technology companies in the country, this boy roamed the streets collecting cans because his mother needed to work to survive. And your father? Gabriel shrugged with a disturbing maturity. I never met him. My mom says he left when he found out I was going to be born. The silence that followed was broken only by the noise of traffic and the sound of Isabella carefully organizing Gabriel's cans in his bag. I can help you, she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Isabella, you don't have to... Rodrigo began, but Gabriel interrupted. Thank you, but these cans are my job. My mom always says we have to fend for ourselves. There was pride in the boy's voice, a kind of dignity that Rodrigo recognized and respected. It was the same determination that had led him to build his business empire, but coming from someone who had barely begun to live. What is your mother's name, Gabriel? Mary Smith. Why? Rodrigo stored the name in his memory. He didn't know why, but he felt he needed to meet the woman who had raised such a special child under such difficult circumstances. Just curiosity. Look, Gabriel, you saved my daughter today. If you need anything... We don't need anything, dude. Thank you anyway. Gabriel cut in politely but firmly. The boy got on his bike, now with his knee wrapped in Isabella's scarf, and prepared to leave. But the girl ran up to him and placed her pink ball in the front basket. So you remember me, she said with a smile. Gabriel turned red but accepted the gift carefully, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. I'll return it, I promise. You don't have to. I have others, but will you come back here someday? I come by every Tuesday and Thursday collecting cans. Then I'll wait for you. Can we be friends? Gabriel smiled, a smile so genuine that it lit up his entire face. Of course, friends. As he watched the boy pedal away on his old bike, with an expensive ball in the basket and a heart full of hope, Mary felt that something had changed irreversibly in her perfectly organized world. She didn't know yet, but that casual encounter would be just the first of many that would transform not only her life, but that of her entire family. Destiny had planted the seeds. Now it was time to see how they would bloom. The next morning after the accident, Mary Smith woke up at 5 o'clock as she always did. The sound of the alarm echoed through the small 2-room apartment in South Los Angeles, where the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the aroma of the French bread she had bought at the corner bakery. At 32 years old, Mary carried a natural beauty that even the exhaustion from the last months of pregnancy could not erase. Her light brown eyes reflected a steely determination, and her hands, though calloused from work, moved with a delicacy that contrasted with the harshness of her routine. "Gabriel, wake up, my love. We need to talk today," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed where her son slept. The boy opened his eyes slowly, still sleepy. The makeshift band-aid on his knee immediately caught his mother's attention. "What happened to you yesterday, and where did this ball come from?" Gabriel sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes. He knew he couldn't lie to his mother, but he also didn't want to worry her. "Mum, I almost ran over a girl yesterday. But it wasn't my fault. She ran after the ball and I braked. In time." Mary felt her heart race. Instinctively, she placed her hand on her prominent belly, where the baby was moving as if sensing her tension. "Gabriel Smith, you're going to tell me everything clearly, from the beginning." As her son recounted the events of the previous day, Mary prepared breakfast with automatic movements. Bread with margarine, coffee with watered-down milk, and a banana she had managed to get for a better price at the market. The pregnancy had made everything harder. The heavy work, the long hours on her feet, the constant worry about the future. "Did the girl give you the ball?" She did, Mom. She said we could be friends. She lives in that fancy building in Beverly Hills, you know? Her dad has a fancy car. Mary sighed deeply. She knew that world well, from where the girl came. Every day, she went up to the 30th floor of the most modern commercial building in Silicon Valley to clean the offices of people who earned in a month what she didn't see in a year. Gabriel, listen carefully to what Mommy is going to tell you. This girl seems to be a good person, but you come from different worlds. I don't want you to get your hopes up thinking you can be like her. Why not, Mom? We got along well. She was nice to me. Because, my son... Mary paused, choosing her words carefully. Because when you're poor, the world teaches you early on that you can't dream too big, and I don't want you to get hurt. Gabriel lowered his head, fiddling with the bread without appetite. He didn't understand why the fact that he didn't have the things the girl had meant they couldn't be friends. 2 hours later, in the luxurious apartment in Beverly Hills, a similar conversation was happening between Rodrigo and Isabella. The businessman had spent the night thinking about the encounter with Gabriel, and a strange restlessness took over his thoughts. "Daddy, when is Gabriel coming back?" Isabella asked, stirring the imported cereal that cost more than an entire family spent on food in a week. Rodrigo watched his daughter closely. Since the tumultuous divorce from Patricia 6 months earlier, Isabella had become a more introspective child, less spontaneous. Seeing her eyes light up when she talked about her new friend was both comforting and concerning. "He said he comes by on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right?" "Right! Can I go down to meet him?" "Isa, we need to talk about this. Gabriel is a good boy, but you have very different lives. Just like Mommy always said, that I shouldn't play with the kids at school who didn't have money." The question hit Rodrigo like a slap. Patricia had always been obsessed with social status, and apparently she had passed those values onto their daughter even during the little time they spent together. "No, Isa, it's not about money, it's complicated. But he was nice to me, Daddy, and he didn't treat me differently just because I have nice clothes." Rodrigo sat down next to his daughter, watching her reflection in the glass dining table. The apartment was a monument to success. Original artworks on the walls, Italian designer furniture, a stunning view of the city, but at that moment all of it seemed empty compared to the genuine simplicity he had seen in the boy the day before. That Tuesday, Destiny arranged the second meeting. Mary had left work early for a prenatal appointment at the health clinic when she decided to stop by Beverly Hills to pick up Gabriel, who was at a neighbor's house. The bus dropped her off exactly at the corner where the accident had happened. Rodrigo was coming home from work when he saw a pregnant woman walking slowly down the sidewalk, one hand resting on her back and the other on her belly. Even from a distance, there was something familiar about her. As he got closer, he immediately recognized the light brown eyes. They were just like Gabriel's. "Excuse me," he said, rolling down the car window. "Are you Gabriel's mother?" Mary turned, surprised. The man in the car was younger than she expected, with neatly cut dark hair and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of many responsibilities. "I am. Are you the father of the girl?" "Robert Johnson. Nice to meet you." Mary assessed the man carefully. He wore a suit that cost more than she earned in 6 months, drove a car worth a fortune, but there was sincerity in his eyes. "Mary Smith, thank you for taking care of my son yesterday. He was amazing, Mrs. Smith, brave and generous. You must be very proud of him." The compliment warmed Mary's heart, but it also raised a red flag. Wealthy people always praised before asking for something or offering charity. "Gabriel is a good boy. I've learned that when you don't have much, you have to be a person of character. Can I give you a ride? You look tired." Mary hesitated. The pain in her back was unbearable, and the bus stop was 3 blocks away. but accepting favors from wealthy strangers never ended well. "Thank you, but I can manage on my own." "Please, it's not out of pity. It's because your son taught me something important about kindness yesterday, and I would like to repay in some way." There was an honesty in Robert's voice that made Mary reconsider. Besides, the baby was moving a lot, as he always did when she was stressed or tired. "Okay, but just to the bus stop up ahead." During the 5-minute ride, they talked about their children. Mary learned that Robert had been a single father for 6 months and was struggling to balance work with parenthood. Robert was impressed by Mary's maturity and determination, raising one child alone while expecting another. "Gabriel mentioned that you work in Silicon Valley," Robert commented. "I do. I clean offices at night. It's honest work." "Of course it is. I work there too. I have a tech company." Mary nodded, unsurprised. It was easy to identify executives. They always had that confident posture and impeccable clothing, even at the end of the day. "This is good," she said when they arrived at the bus stop. "Thank you for the ride." "Mary, can I ask you a question?" She nodded, though tense. "Gabriel mentioned that you don't need help from anyone. But if you did, would you accept it?" "It depends on the help and its price," Mary replied frankly. "I've learned that nothing is free in this life." Robert felt a tightness in his chest. The harshness of her response contrasted with the vulnerability he perceived in her. What if there were no price? What if it was just people helping each other? Mary looked at him for a long moment, her eyes trying to decipher his intentions. "People like us don't help each other, Mr. Johnson. We live in different worlds, remember? And when those worlds mix, the one who always gets hurt is the one without money." With those words, she got out of the car and walked toward the bus stop, leaving Robert with a strange feeling in his chest. For the first time in years, his certainties about the world had been questioned by a pregnant woman who barely knew him but had seen through his good intentions with disturbing clarity. As he drove home, Robert couldn't get Mary out of his thoughts. There was something about her, a wounded dignity, a quiet strength, that attracted and challenged him at the same time. Tuesdays and Thursdays became the most anticipated days in Isabella's routine. Promptly at 4 in the afternoon she would position herself by the apartment window, watching the street until she spotted Gabriel's faded green bicycle climbing the steep hill of Beverly Hills. The girl's heart raced with joy every time she saw him, and she would run to the intercom to notify the doorman that her friend had arrived. "Mr. Gabriel, Miss Isabella is waiting for you," the doorman would say with an amused smile. Gabriel had gotten used to the respectful treatment from the building staff, although he still felt out of place in the luxurious environment. His hands, dirty from bike grease, contrasted with the polished marble of the lobby, and he always took care not to touch anything. "Hi, Gabriel," Isabella would shout, running to hug him whenever he arrived. "Hi, Isa. How was school today?" It was a simple routine, but it filled a void in both children's hearts. Gabriel found in Isabella a friend who listened to him talk about his dreams without judgment, while she discovered in Gabriel a completely different perspective on the world. Today, the teacher talked about professions, Isabella shared, as they sat in the condominium's garden. She asked what we wanted to be when we grew up. "And what did you say?" "That I want to be like my dad, rich and important." Gabriel made a strange face. "But then I thought, what do you want to be?" Gabriel picked up a stick and began to draw on the ground. "I want to be an engineer. Build beautiful houses for people like my mom. Houses where she doesn't have to worry about leaks or rent." The simplicity and nobility of the dream touched something deep in Isabella. "You're very smart, Gabriel. I'm sure you'll make it." "My mom says that poor people have to dream small so they don't get hurt, but I can't dream small, you know." Isabella opened her pink unicorn-patterned lunchbox. Inside were elaborate sandwiches, organic fruits, natural juices, and imported sweets, enough food to feed an entire family. "Want a sandwich? There's prosciutto and brie cheese." Gabriel looked at the food with his mouth watering but shook his head. "Thank you, but my mum said that I shouldn't accept food from rich people because then they think we owe them favors." "But we're friends. Friends share food. It's different, Isabella. You don't understand because you've never gone hungry." The statement hit Isabella like a slap in the face. For the first time, she realized that Gabriel truly faced hardships she couldn't even imagine. "Gabriel, have you ever gone without food?" The boy hesitated, not wanting to worry his friend, but seeing the sincerity in her blue eyes. "A few times, when my mum gets sick and can't work, or when the money just doesn't stretch, but we manage." Isabella felt her eyes welling up with tears. Without saying anything, she took half of her sandwich and placed it in Gabriel's hand. "Please, it's not charity, it's because I want to share with my best friend." Gabriel looked at the sandwich and then at Isabella's hopeful face. Slowly, he accepted the food. "Thank you," he murmured, biting into the sandwich with reverence. From that day on, sharing snacks became a sacred ritual between them. Isabella discovered that giving was much better than receiving, while Gabriel learned that accepting help from people who cared about you wasn't humiliation. During the rainy mornings of March, when the smell of wet earth mixed with the aroma of coffee from nearby bakeries, Robert began arriving earlier at the office. He wouldn't admit it to himself, but he hoped to find Mary at the entrance of the office building where she worked. The building of golden mirrors loomed impressively in Silicon Valley, reflecting the typical gray sky of autumn in Los Angeles. Mary always arrived at 6 in the morning, when the city was still waking up and the traffic was lighter. She carried a thermal bag with her coffee and bread, along with a water bottle that lasted all day. "Good morning, Mary," Robert greeted on a particularly cold morning. "Good morning, Mr. Robert," she replied, surprised to see him so early. "Just Robert, please. Mr. makes me feel old." Mary smiled slightly. "All right, Robert." They entered the elevator together, the silence filled only by the soft sound of background music. Mary was going to the basement, where the cleaning staff's locker room was located. Robert was heading to the 30th floor, where he ran his company. "How are you feeling?" "The pregnancy," Robert asked, genuinely concerned. "Tired. But being pregnant isn't being sick, right? I have to keep working." "And the baby's father?" Mary visibly stiffened. "There is no father. It's just me and my kids." Robert realized he had touched on a painful subject and decided to change the topic. "Gabriel is a special boy. Isabella talks about him every day." Mary's face immediately softened. "He can't stop talking about her either. I think he's never had such a dear friend." "They get along well, don't they?" "They do, but I worry." "Worry about what?" Mary looked directly into Robert's dark eyes. "I'm worried that my son will get used to a life he will never have. I'm worried that he will suffer when he finds out that friendship between the rich and the poor always ends badly." "Why does it have to end badly?" "Because you all always leave, to expensive schools, trips, universities abroad, and we stay here in the same place with a hole in our hearts and the feeling that we're not enough." The brutal honesty of Mary's words left Robert speechless. The elevator stopped in the basement, and she stood up to exit. "Mary, wait." She turned around, one eyebrow raised. What if it wasn't like that? What if some friendships were different? "Then it would be the first time in my life," she replied, stepping out of the elevator. That afternoon, when Gabriel arrived to meet Isabella, he found his friend crying in the condominium garden. "What's wrong, Isa?" "Mom came to pick up my things today. She wants me to live with her and her new boyfriend." Gabriel sat down next to his friend, unsure of what to do. He had never dealt with rich people's problems before. "Do you want to go?" "No, I want to stay with Dad, and I want to keep being your friend." "I'll always be your friend, Isa, no matter where you are. Promise." "I promise." Isabella snuggled up next to Gabriel, finding in her older friend the comfort she couldn't find in the adults around her. For Gabriel, protecting Isabella became as natural as breathing. "Gabriel, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "Sometimes I have nightmares. I dream that everyone leaves and leaves me alone." "I will never leave you alone, Isa. I promise." It was a promise too big for a 10-year-old boy to make, but Gabriel made it with the seriousness of someone who had already learned that words have weight and consequences. That night, Robert found Isabella playing with an old doll he had never seen before. "Where did this doll come from, Isa?" "Gabriel gave it to me. It belonged to his sister who died when she was a baby. He said she would like me to take care of it." Robert felt a tightness in his heart. The boy had given his daughter one of the few toys he owned, filled with memory and sentimental value. "It's a very special gift." "It is. That's why I will take good care of it. Gabriel said that when you love something, you protect it." Robert looked at his daughter playing with the battered doll and felt he was learning about love and generosity from two children who, despite living in opposite worlds, had found in each other a family chosen by the heart. Down below, in the apartment in South Los Angeles, Mary watched Gabriel do his homework at the kitchen table, using the bright light of the fluorescent lamp to save energy. The boy was drawing a house with a garden and writing underneath, "For my mom and my little brother." "What a beautiful house, my love. It's the house I'm going to build for you when I become an engineer. It will have a room for everyone and a big kitchen where you can cook without worrying about gas." Mary kissed her son's forehead, feeling a mix of pride and worry. Gabriel was growing up too fast, dreaming too big, and she feared that the world might be too cruel to protect such pure dreams. "Gabriel, you know I love you more than anything, right?" "I love you too, Mom. You, the baby, and Isabella. You guys are my family." And in that simple phrase, Mary understood that no matter how hard she tried to shield her son from the world's disappointments, he had already chosen to love beyond the boundaries she tried to create. The month of April brought with it the first heavy rains of the autumn in Los Angeles, and with them, the first major crisis that would test the limits of friendship between the two families. The smell of wet earth mixed with the aroma of coffee wafting from the local cafes, creating a melancholic atmosphere that seemed to foreshadow the conflicts to come. Robert had spent the last few weeks discreetly observing Mary and Gabriel's routine. As a businessman accustomed to solving problems efficiently, he felt frustrated that he couldn't find a way to help without hurting the family's pride. Mary's pregnancy was progressing, and it was evident that she was increasingly struggling to keep up with her work pace. "Mr. Robert," said Sandra, the human resources manager of his company, entering his office with a folder in hand. "I got the information you requested about the employee Mary Smith." Robert took the folder with slightly trembling hands. He knew he was invading Mary's privacy, but he justified to himself that it was for a good cause. "She has been working here for 3 years, Sandra continued. "Always punctual, never missed a day, excellent reviews from supervisors. But what? She is in her 7th month of pregnancy and still does the full shift of heavy cleaning. The doctors have already recommended that she reduce her workload, but she refuses. She says she needs the money." Robert closed his eyes, imagining Mary going up and down stairs, carrying heavy buckets and scrubbing floors while battling back pain and pregnancy fatigue. "Is there a lighter position we can offer her?" "Well, There's an opening in the administrative reception. It's a calmer job, but the pay is lower. What if we kept the same salary as a special benefit for pregnant employees? Sandra raised her eyebrows, surprised. Robert had never shown personal interest in the cleaning staff. It's possible, sir, but we would need her approval. Make the offer, discreetly. The next morning, Mary received the proposal through her supervisor, Mrs. Johnson, a woman in her 50s who had been working in cleaning for over 2 decades. Mary, dear, the higher-ups want to transfer you to reception. Lighter work, same salary. Mary stopped scrubbing the floor and looked at Mrs. Johnson with suspicion. Since when do they care about cleaning staff? I don't know, dear, but it would be good for you with that belly and all. Mrs. Johnson, have you ever seen a rich person do a favor without wanting something in return? No, but maybe. There's no maybe. They want something. And when I find out what it is, it will be too late. Mary categorically refused the offer, leaving Robert confused and frustrated. During their encounter in the elevator the next morning, he decided to address the issue directly. Mary, about the transfer. I don't want to talk about it, but it's a better opportunity for you. Mary turned to him with eyes blazing with anger. Opportunity? Or do you want to buy me off? You thought that if you gave a better job to the poor woman, she would be grateful and let her child become your daughter's pet. That's not it, Mary. You just what? Thought you could solve my life with money? Thought I was a desperate woman who would accept anything? The elevator stopped in the basement, and Mary exited but turned one last time. Listen well, Robert Johnson. I am not a social project for a bored rich person. If you want to help someone, start a charity. The elevator doors closed, leaving Robert alone with the weight of Mary's words echoing in his mind. For the first time, he questioned whether his intentions were truly as pure as he imagined. That afternoon, when Gabriel arrived to meet Isabella, he found his friend in tears in the condominium garden. Beside her was an elegant blonde woman he didn't know, Patricia, Isabella's mother. Isabella, stop this nonsense. You're coming to live with me, end of story, Patricia said firmly. I don't want to. I want to stay with Dad. Your father doesn't have time for you. He's always working. With me, you'll have a better life. Gabriel approached hesitantly, unsure if he should intervene. Who is this boy? Patricia asked, looking Gabriel up and down with barely concealed disdain. It's Gabriel, my best friend, Isabella replied between sobs. Isabella, how many times do I have to tell you not to associate with that kind of people? Gabriel felt his face heat with embarrassment. He knew exactly what that kind of people meant. Gabriel is not that kind of people. He's my friend, Isabella shouted. Don't yell at me, young lady. And you, Patricia said, pointing at Gabriel, stay away from my daughter. Mum, no! Gabriel stepped back a few paces, feeling small and insignificant in front of the elegant woman. His patched clothes seemed even older under her critical gaze. All right, Mum, Gabriel murmured. I don't want to cause trouble. Gabriel, no, don't go! Isabella ran and clung to her friend's arm. Isabella, stop this immediately! Patricia pulled her daughter by the hand. You're coming with me now. No, Gabriel, Gabriel, help me! Gabriel looked into his friend's desperate eyes and felt his heart break. He wanted to help her, but he knew he couldn't fight against a rich and powerful mother. It's going to be okay, Isa. Your mum loves you. Do you promise you won't forget me? I promise. Gabriel watched Patricia take Isabella away, the girl crying and looking back until she disappeared into the elevator. For the first time, he fully understood what his mother meant about the rich and poor not mixing. That night, Robert came home to find the apartment empty. A letter from Patricia explained that she had taken Isabella and would be filing for full custody, claiming he did not provide a suitable environment for their daughter. "Unsuitable environment," Robert murmured, looking around the luxurious apartment. Then he remembered Patricia's words about Gabriel and understood what she was talking about. Robert immediately called his lawyer. "Dr. Johnson, how can I help you?" Patricia took Isabella. "She says she's going to file for full custody. I need you to—" "Sir, with all due respect, your ex-wife has solid arguments. Miss Isabella is associating with children from a very different social class, which could negatively influence her development." Robert hung up the phone angrily. Even his own lawyer thought like Patricia. In South Los Angeles, Gabriel came home with red eyes from crying. Mary, who was struggling to prepare dinner due to her pregnancy, immediately sensed something was wrong. "What happened, my love?" Gabriel told her everything. About Isabella's mother, the cruel words about having to see his friend taken away against her will. "Mum, why do they think we're different? Why can't we be friends?" Mary sat heavily in the kitchen chair, pulling Gabriel close to her. "Because the world teaches that poor and rich cannot mix, my son. Because they fear we'll contaminate them with our poverty, and we fear they'll humiliate us with their wealth. But Isa isn't like that. She's good." "I know, love. But grown-ups complicate everything. They make rules that don't make sense to protect things that don't need protecting." Gabriel rested his head on his mother's shoulder, smelling the familiar scent of cheap soap and the exhaustion that always accompanied her. "Mom, do you think I'll see Isa again?" Mary kissed her son's head, fighting back her own tears. "I don't know, my love. But if you truly love each other, fate always finds a way to bring people together." It was a kind lie, but Mary needed to give her son hope, because at that moment, seeing Gabriel suffer his first great disappointment with the adult world, she realized she had failed to protect him from the pain she always knew would come. Outside, the rain continued to fall over Los Angeles, washing the streets, but unable to cleanse the sadness that had settled in two hearts that had learned for the first time that love is not always enough to overcome the barriers the world insists on creating. The following weeks passed like a slow-motion film for both families. The autumn in Los Angeles showed its most melancholic face, with cloudy mornings reflecting the gloomy mood that had settled in the hearts of everyone involved. The smell of dry leaves mixed with exhaust fumes on the Pacific Coast Highway, creating a dense atmosphere that seemed to suffocate any hope of reconciliation. Gabriel had lost his appetite and the sparkle in his eyes. He continued collecting cans on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but now he avoided passing near the condominium where Isabella lived. The absence of his friend had created a void in his routine that he didn't know how to fill. Mary watched her son slowly wither away, and guilt gnawed at her inside like a silent cancer. "Gabriel, at least eat a little," she pleaded, pushing a plate of rice and beans toward him. "I'm not hungry, Mom." "My love, you can't stop living because of this." Gabriel raised his brown eyes, now clouded with a sadness that shouldn't exist in a 10-year-old. "Is Isa okay, Mom? Is her mum nice to her?" Mary felt her heart tighten. How could she explain to a child that the world was cruel and unfair? How could she say that they probably would never see Isabella again? "I'm sure she is, my love. Mothers always want the best for their children." It was another kind lie, but Mary didn't have the heart to completely destroy her son's hope. In the luxurious apartment in West Hollywood, where Patricia had moved in with her new boyfriend, Isabella was living her own private hell. The apartment was even bigger and more elegant than her father's, but to her it felt like a gilded cage, where every expensive piece of furniture reminded her that she was far from home. "Isabella, stop standing there staring out the window. Let's have lunch," Patricia said impatiently. "I don't want to have lunch." "You And can't skip meals. What will the other mothers think if they see you looking thin? Patricia was obsessed with appearances. Isabella now wore even more expensive dresses, attended an elite private school, and took piano, ballet, and French classes. But all of this sounded like noise to her. She just wanted to talk to Gabriel about simple things, share a sandwich in the garden, and hear his dreams of becoming an engineer. "Mum, when will I see Dad?" "This weekend. But I want you to understand one thing, Isabella. That boy you met, he's not suitable for our family. You need to make friends from your own social class." "Why does social class matter so much?" Patricia sighed, as if explaining something obvious to a stubborn child. "Because, dear, people are different. We have responsibilities, education, values that they don't have. It's better for everyone if we keep our distance. Gabriel has values. He's kind and brave." "Isabella, enough. I don't want to hear any more about that boy." That same afternoon, Robert was in his office trying to focus on an important meeting about international expansion, but his mind kept drifting back to his daughter. He had managed to arrange weekend visits. Robert Johnson sat in his office, feeling increasingly anxious as each meeting with Isabella Johnson left her looking more withdrawn and distant. "Mr. Johnson?" Sandra, the HR manager, interrupted his thoughts. "Can I speak with you?" "Of course, Sandra. What is it?" "It's about Mary Smith. She fainted this morning in the bathroom on the 20th floor. We had to call an ambulance." Robert felt his blood run cold. "How is she?" "They took her to General Hospital. High blood pressure, a lot of stress. The doctor said she needs complete rest." "And her son?" "We haven't been able to contact anyone from her family yet." Robert immediately stood up, grabbing his tailored suit jacket. "Where are you going?" "To the hospital." "Sir, with all due respect, that might not be appropriate." Robert stopped at the door and turned to Sandra. "Appropriate? One of my employees is in the hospital, pregnant and alone, and her son knows nothing. What do you think would be appropriate, Sandra? Let her die?" The harshness in Robert's voice made Sandra step back. "Of course not, sir. I'm sorry." At General Hospital, Robert found Mary connected to several machines, her pale face contrasting with her dark hair spread across the white pillow. She was conscious but visibly weakened. "Robert?" Mary tried to sit up when she saw him enter the room. "What are you doing here?" "I heard what happened." "How are you?" "Fine. Just a scare." "Where's Gabriel?" "We haven't been able to find him yet. Where does he stay when you're working?" "With the neighbor, Mrs. Green. Apartment 203 in my building." Mary tried to get up. "I need to go get him. He'll be worried." "Mary, you can't leave here. The doctor said you need to be arrested. You don't understand. Gabriel has never spent a night away from me. He'll freak out if he doesn't see me come home." The genuine concern Mary had for her son touched Robert deeply. Even in her weakened state, she was only thinking about Gabriel's well-being. "Let me get him. I can bring him here to see you and then—" "No." The response was firm despite her weakness. "Thank you, but no. We've already caused too many problems." "Mary, for God's sake, you almost died today. This isn't the time for pride." "It's always time for pride when you have nothing left." Mary's eyes filled with tears, but she fought to keep them from falling. "I don't want my son to see me here. I don't want him to be afraid that I'll leave like his father did." The vulnerability in Mary's voice broke down all of Robert's defenses. He approached the bed and, without asking for permission, took her hand. "Mary, let me help you, not as a boss, not as a rich guy wanting to do charity, as a friend who cares." Mary looked into Robert's dark eyes and saw a sincerity that frightened her. It had been a long time since she had seen a man look at her that way, not with pity or desire, but with genuine respect and care. Why do you care so much about us?" Robert fell silent for a long moment, searching for an honest answer. "Because Gabriel taught me that true kindness isn't about money, and you showed me that dignity isn't something you buy. You made me question everything I thought I knew about what really matters in life." "And your daughter, how is she?" "Sad. She asks about Gabriel every day." Mary closed her eyes, battling guilt. "Maybe it's better this way. Maybe it's better if they forget each other." "Do you really believe that?" Mary opened her eyes and found Robert's intense gaze. "No, but sometimes we have to choose what's best, not what we want." At that moment, a nurse entered the room. "I'm sorry, but visiting hours are over." Robert reluctantly stood up, but before leaving he turned to Mary one last time. "Mary, I'm going to get Gabriel and explain the situation. I'll make sure he's okay until you get out of here. And before you say no, this isn't a favor, it's what any decent person would do." "Robert, don't argue with me this time, please." Mary weakly nodded, finally accepting that she needed help and that not all help came with ulterior motives. 2 hours later, Robert knocked on the door of apartment 203 in South Los Angeles. Mrs. Green, a gray-haired lady with kind eyes, opened the door with Gabriel clinging to her skirt, his eyes red from crying. "Dude, thank goodness you came. Gabriel is desperate. Mary hasn't come home from work." Gabriel looked at Robert with a mix of hope and fear. "Dude, where's my mum?" Robert knelt down to the boy's level, choosing his words carefully. "Gabriel, your mom had a health scare at work. She's in the hospital, but she's okay. The doctors just want her to rest." "Is she going to die?" The direct question, heavy with fear, made Robert's heart tighten. "No, Gabriel, she's going to be fine, but she needs to stay in the hospital for a few days." "Can I see her?" "Of course. Shall we go now?" Gabriel nodded eagerly, running to grab a bag with his few clothes. When he returned, Robert noticed he was holding the pink ball Isabella had given him. "Do you want to take the ball?" Gabriel lowered his head, embarrassed. "It reminds me that someone used to love me." The simplicity and sadness of the response broke Robert's heart. In that moment, he made a decision that would change the course of all their lives. "Gabriel, do you want to see Isabella?" The boy's eyes lit up for the first time in weeks. "Can I?" "Yes. She misses you too." And so, as Los Angeles prepared for another cold autumn night, two families shattered by intolerance and prejudice began to find in their own pain the way back to each other. Night had fallen over Los Angeles as Robert drove through the streets. The illuminated streets of the city, Gabriel in the passenger seat observing everything with wide eyes. The boy had never ridden in such a luxurious car, but his concern for his mother overshadowed any admiration for the leather and wood details of the Tesla's interior. "Dude, Robert," Gabriel said, breaking the silence, "my mom is going to be mad if she finds out I'm with you." Robert looked in the rearview mirror and saw the worried face of the boy. "Why do you think that?" "Because she said that rich and poor can't be friends, that it always ends with the poor getting hurt." "And do you agree with her?" Gabriel pondered for a moment, clutching the pink ball against his chest. "I don't know. Isabella hurt me when she left, but it wasn't her fault. It was her mum's fault for thinking I'm inferior." The maturity of the response impressed Robert. At 10 years old, Gabriel already understood nuances of social relationships that many adults pretended not to notice. "Gabriel, can I tell you a secret?" The boy nodded. "Isabella cries every night because she misses you. She made me promise I would find a way for you two to see each other again." Gabriel's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Really? Really? You have a very special friendship. You shouldn't let other people destroy that." When they arrived at the hospital, Gabriel ran through the corridors until he found his mother's room. Mary was sleeping but woke up with the sound of the door opening. "Gabriel, my love!" The boy threw himself into his mother's arms, finally releasing all the tears he had held back throughout the day. "Mom, I thought you had died like Mrs. Green's baby." "No, my love. Mommy was just very tired, but I'm better now." Mary looked over her son's head and saw Robert standing at the door, respectfully keeping his distance. "Thank you for picking him up," she said simply. "Gabriel is a brave boy. He took very good care of you while you were apart." A comfortable silence settled in the room. Gabriel told his mother about his day, carefully omitting the part about Isabella to avoid worrying her. Mary discreetly observed Robert, noticing how he interacted naturally with Gabriel, without condescension or superiority. "Mom," Gabriel said after a while, "can I stay here with you tonight?" "You can't, my love. Hospitals don't allow that. Then I'll sleep on the bench in the park across the street." "Gabriel." Mary looked at Robert, unsure of what to do. "Gabriel can stay at my apartment," Robert offered. "I have a guest room. I can't accept that." "Mary, would you rather he sleep on the street?" The direct question forced Mary to face reality. Pride didn't feed or protect her son. "Okay, but only for tonight." An hour later, Robert and Gabriel entered the luxurious apartment. In Beverly Hills, the boy looked around in silent admiration. The expensive furniture, the artwork, the spectacular view of the city. "It's very beautiful here, dude, Robert." "Thank you. Are you hungry?" Gabriel hesitated. He hadn't eaten anything all day, but he didn't want to seem like a freeloader. "A little," Robert smiled. "How about pizza? I know a really good pizzeria that delivers here." "Pizza?" Gabriel's eyes lit up. "I've never had real pizza. Just the frozen kind from the store." "Then today you will try the best pizza in Los Angeles." While they waited for the food, Robert showed Gabriel around the apartment. The boy was fascinated by the library, carefully running his fingers over the leather-bound books. "Have you read all these books?" "Most of them. Do you like to read?" "I do, but we only have some old books that the school library was going to throw away. My mom got them for me." "You can borrow any you want." Gabriel looked at Robert in surprise. "Really?" "Of course. Books are meant to be shared." When the pizza arrived, Gabriel ate reverently, savoring each slice as if it were a royal feast. "Dude, Robert," he said between bites, "can I ask a question?" "Sure." "Why are you being so nice to me? My mom always says that rich people don't do anything for free." Robert stopped eating and looked directly at Gabriel. "Because you and your mom taught me that good people exist everywhere, and because you are important to Isabella." "Is she okay?" "Physically, yes, but she's sad without you." Gabriel lowered his head. "I'm sad without her too." "Gabriel, would you like to talk to her?" The boy's heart raced. "Can I?" Robert picked up the phone and dialed Patricia's number. The conversation was tense. "Patricia, it's Robert. Is Isabella there?" "Robert, what do you want? It's almost 10 at night." "I want her to talk to Gabriel." "Absolutely not. We've already talked about this." "Patricia, our daughter is withering away from sadness. This can't continue. She'll get over it. Kids adapt. She won't get over it, and you know that." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "5 minutes, Robert, just 5 minutes." Gabriel held the phone with trembling hands. "Hello? Gabriel? Gabriel, is that you?" Isabella's voice was choked with emotion. "Hi, Isa. How are you?" "Sad. Very sad. You disappeared." "I didn't disappear. Your mum said we can't be friends. But we can. I don't care what she says." "Isa, are you okay where you are?" "No. I want to come home. I want to play with you in the garden." Gabriel looked at Robert, who nodded encouragingly. "Aye, sir. I'm going to find a way for us to see each other again. I promise." "Really?" "I promise. We're friends forever, remember? Forever." The call was abruptly interrupted when Patricia took the phone from her daughter. On the other end of the line, Isabella could still be heard crying and shouting Gabriel's name. "She's suffering so much," Gabriel murmured, tears in his eyes. "I know. That's why we're going to find a way for you two to be together again. How? I don't know yet. But we will find a way." That night, Gabriel slept for the first time in Egyptian cotton sheets in a room larger than his entire apartment. But before falling asleep, he made a silent promise. No matter how long it took, he would find a way to be friends with Isabella again. In the next room, Robert stayed awake late. In planning, he had resources, influence, and determination. He needed to find a legal way to bring the kids together again, even if it meant facing Patricia and the entire system that favored people like her. At General Hospital, Mary also couldn't sleep. She felt the baby moving restlessly in her belly, as if he too sensed the emotional tension that filled her thoughts. For the first time in years, she had allowed someone to truly help her. And surprisingly, she didn't feel humiliated or diminished by it. Perhaps, just perhaps, there were rich people who were different. Maybe Robert was one of those people. But Mary knew that the world didn't change overnight, and that class prejudice was a powerful force that destroyed relationships every day. The question that tormented her was, could she protect her children's friendship without everyone getting hurt in the process? Outside the hospital, Los Angeles continued its frenetic nightlife, indifferent to the personal dramas unfolding in its hospitals, apartments, and broken hearts. But for four people connected by fate and separated by society, that night marked the beginning of a new phase in the struggle between love and prejudice. A phase where, for the first time, love had a real chance to win. May arrived, bringing with it the first truly cold mornings of the Los Angeles winter. The scent of eucalyptus mixed with the exhaust fumes during the morning rush hour, creating a dense fog that seemed to mirror the emotional confusion enveloping the lives of everyone involved in the complex web that fate had woven. Mary had been discharged from the hospital 3 days earlier, but the doctors had been categorical: complete rest until the baby was born. This meant stepping away from work and losing income just when she needed money the most. Sitting in the small living room of her apartment, she watched Gabriel do his homework at the kitchen table, his brows furrowed in concentration. "Mom, Robert said I can borrow books from his library," Gabriel commented without looking up from his notebook. Mary felt her stomach tighten. In recent days, Gabriel hadn't stopped talking about Robert, about his kindness, his books, his beautiful house. It was exactly what she had feared. Her son was getting attached to a life he could never have. "Gabriel, you know that was just for a few days, right? We can't rely on other people's kindness." "But he said we can be friends, and friends help each other." "My love, friendship between people like us and people like him is complicated. Eventually he'll get tired of playing nice." Gabriel stopped writing and looked at his mother with an expression that surprised her with its maturity. "Mom, you're acting just like Isabella's mom, judging people by the money they have." The observation hit Mary like a slap in the face. Was she really being prejudiced in reverse? At that very moment, 15 kilometers away, Robert was facing his own battle. He was meeting with Dr. Fabio, the most expensive lawyer in Los Angeles, in his office atop a skyscraper in Silicon Valley. "Mr. Johnson, with all due respect, you are making a strategic mistake," the lawyer said, adjusting his designer glasses. "Your ex-wife is using this association with lower-class people as an argument to prove that you do not provide a suitable environment for the child. Suitable environment? Robert leaned forward, his voice heavy with irritation. We're talking about a friendship between kids, Dr. Fabio, a healthy and pure friendship. Sir, the judge will not see it that way. He will see an elite child being exposed to elements that do not align with her socioeconomic background. This could be interpreted as parental neglect. Robert stood up abruptly, walking to the window that offered a panoramic view of the city. And what if I don't care what the judge thinks? Then you will lose custody of your daughter. The silence that followed was broken only by the muffled sound of traffic below. Robert thought of Isabella, increasingly apathetic during the weekends they spent together, constantly asking about Gabriel. Dr. Fabio, is there any legal way to ensure that the kids can keep in touch? No, sir. Patricia has equal rights to yours, and if she opposes the relationship, there's not much we can do. And what if I offered something in return? Like what? I don't know. Money? A settlement proposal? The lawyer shook his head. Sir, knowing Patricia, that would only strengthen her position. She would argue that you are trying to buy the right to expose your daughter to inappropriate influences. Robert returned to the chair, feeling the weight of defeat. So there's nothing we can do? There is an alternative, but you won't like it. Speak. Cut all ties with the Smith family. Show the judge that you recognize the mistake and that you are prioritizing Isabella's well-being above other considerations. Robert looked at the lawyer with an expression that mixed disbelief and disgust. Other considerations? We're talking about people, Dr. Fabio, about a child who became my daughter's best friend and a woman who... Robert stopped abruptly, realizing he was about to reveal feelings he hadn't even fully admitted to himself. A woman who... What, sir? Nothing. Forget it. But he couldn't forget. In recent days, he had visited Mary in the hospital and then at her home, always, with the excuse of bringing news about Gabriel or checking how she was doing. She was recovering, but the truth was that he felt drawn to her dignity, her quiet strength, her straightforward way of facing life. That afternoon, when he arrived at Mary's apartment to pick up Gabriel, who had spent the day with her while Mrs. Green worked, he found a scene that deeply touched him. Mother and son were sitting on the small sofa, Gabriel reading aloud from a math textbook while Mary listened attentively, occasionally helping with the calculations. Sorry to interrupt, Robert said, from the half-open door. Dude, Robert! Gabriel jumped off the sofa and ran to hug him. Mary tried to get up, but Robert gestured for her to stay seated. How are you feeling? Better. Thank you for taking care of Gabriel today. He's no trouble at all, actually. Robert hesitated. Mary, I need to talk to you both about something serious. The formal tone of his voice made Mary sit up straight, alert. What is it? Robert sat down in the kitchen chair, carefully choosing his words. My ex-wife is using our friendship as leverage to gain full custody of Isabella. My lawyer thinks that it might be better for us to keep our distance for a while. The silence that followed was deafening. Gabriel seemed unable to process the information. But you said we would find a way for me to see Isa again. I know, Gabriel, and I still believe we will. But maybe now isn't the right time. Mary watched her son's face slowly crumble, returning to that expression of deep sadness that had dominated his features in the previous weeks. Gabriel, go play in your room for a bit. I want to talk to Robert. When they were alone, Mary turned to Robert with fiery eyes. So this is it. At the first difficulty, you give up. Mary, it's not like that. If I lose custody of Isabella, If you lose custody, she will be raised by a woman who teaches that people like us are inferior. Do you think that's better for her?" Robert ran his hands through his hair, visibly distressed. "Of course not. But what if we fight and still lose? Then neither Gabriel nor Isabella will have a chance to reunite in the future. And if we don't fight, they will never forgive themselves for giving up without trying." Mary struggled to stand, leaning on the arm of the sofa. "Robert, do you want to know what I've learned in life? That when you're afraid to fight for what's right, you've already lost before you even start. But Mary, there's no but, Robert. Either you believe that what these kids have is special, or you don't. If you believe, you fight. If you don't believe, then it's really better for you to leave now and never come back." The firmness in Mary's voice surprised even her. It had been a long time since she felt so sure of anything. Robert looked at her, dishevelled hair, simple clothes, prominent belly, and saw a strength he didn't find in the women of his social circle, always so concerned with pleasing and maintaining appearances. "Mary, can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "Why is this so important to you? Gabriel will suffer just as much as Isabella if we continue this fight." Mary moved closer to the window, watching the activity on the street below. Children returning from school, workers heading home, the simple and honest life she knew so well. "Because, Robert, my son deserves to have friends who see him for who he is, not for what he doesn't have. And your daughter deserves to learn that a person's worth isn't in their bank account. If we give up now, we're teaching them that prejudice always wins." Robert stepped closer to her, standing by her side at the window. "And if I say I'm scared, I would say everyone is scared when they're fighting for something that really matters. And you, are you scared?" Mary turned to look him in the eyes. "I'm terrified. But I'd rather be scared fighting than be certain giving up." At that moment, Gabriel appeared in the doorway of the room, holding Isabella's pink ball. "Dude, Robert, can I return this to Isa? I want her to know I haven't forgotten her." Robert looked at the boy, then at Mary, and finally understood that some battles are worth fighting regardless of the consequences. "You can, Gabriel, and you know what? I'll find a way for you to see each other in person so you can return it." The smile that lit up Gabriel's face was worth all the risks to come. The Los Angeles winter showed its harshest face when June arrived, bringing with it freezing mornings and a persistent drizzle that seemed never-ending. The smell of hot coffee mixed with the aroma of roasted chestnuts from street vendors, creating a cozy atmosphere that contrasted with the tension dominating the lives of the two families. Robert had spent 2 weeks devising a careful plan. He knew Patricia well enough to realize that he couldn't confront her directly. That would only strengthen her legal position. He needed to be smarter, more strategic. The answer came through an unexpected source: Isabella herself. "Daddy," she said during one of her weekend visits, "can you take me to see Gabriel at the hospital?" Robert nearly choked on his coffee. "What hospital, Lisa?" "Gabriel is in the hospital. Lily from my class said she saw him there with his mom. She said he was really sad." Robert's heart raced. Gabriel in the hospital. He immediately called Mary, who answered with a tired voice. "Mary, it's Robert. Isabella told me that Gabriel is hospitalized." "He is. Since last night." "What happened?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Appendicitis. He had been complaining of stomach pain for a few days, but I thought it was just nerves because of everything. When the pain got really bad, I took him to the urgent care center. Health. They had to perform emergency surgery." Robert felt his stomach tighten with guilt. Gabriel was sick and he didn't even know. "How is he now?" "Well, the surgery was a success, but—" Mary's voice faltered. "But what?" "The health insurance didn't cover everything. The hospital bill is more than I earn in 6 months, and I can't work." Robert closed his eyes, imagining Mary's desperate situation. Mary, No, I don't want to borrow money. I've already spoken with the hospital. They agreed to let me pay in installments over 5 years. 5 years? Mary, that's absurd. It's what I can afford. Isabella, who had overheard part of the conversation, tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy, can we visit Gabriel?" Robert looked at his daughter and saw an opportunity he couldn't waste. "Mary, Isabella really wants to see Gabriel. Do you think—" "Robert, if someone from your family comes here—" "It's a public hospital. Anyone can be visiting any patient. There's nothing Patricia can use against us." Mary hesitated. She knew Gabriel had been depressed since the surgery, constantly asking for Isabella. "He's in room 312, but be discreet." An hour later, Robert and Isabella walked through the corridors of the General Hospital. The smell of disinfectant mixed with the aroma of food coming from the cafeteria, creating an atmosphere that was both familiar and uncomfortable for those unaccustomed to public hospitals. "Daddy, why is this hospital so different from the one Grandma goes to when she's sick?" Robert stopped in the hallway, kneeling to his daughter's level. "Because there are hospitals for people who have money and hospitals for people who don't, Issa. And unfortunately, sometimes the hospitals for those without money aren't as comfortable. Is that fair?" "No, it's not fair." "Then why is it like this?" It was a simple question from a 7-year-old, but it touched on the root of all the social inequalities that Robert had passively accepted throughout his life. "Because adults sometimes make wrong choices, Issa, and then it becomes hard to change." When they arrived at room 312, they found Gabriel sitting on the bed, distractedly playing with a broken plastic car. Upon seeing Isabella at the door, his face lit up as if he had seen the sun after a long storm. "Issa, you came!" Isabella rushed to the bed and carefully hugged her friend, trying not to hurt his surgical stitches. "Gabriel, I missed you so much. Daddy said you were sick." "I'm better now. The doctors took something out of my belly that was hurting me." Mary, who was sitting in an uncomfortable chair beside the bed, watched the children's reunion with tear-filled eyes. "Hi, Mary," Robert greeted softly. "Hi. Thank you for bringing her." "Gabriel seems to be doing well." "Yeah. The doctors said he might be discharged in 2 days." Robert noticed that Mary looked visibly tired and stressed. She had slept in the hospital for 2 consecutive nights in an uncomfortable chair, worried about her son and the accumulating expenses. "Mary, have you eaten anything today?" "I have. A sandwich I bought at the hospital cafeteria." It was a lie, and Robert knew it. She was saving every penny to try to reduce the hospital debt. "I'll get you a better coffee, and maybe a snack for the kids." "Robert, you don't have to—" "Mary, let me do this, please." As Robert walked away to get food, the children chatted excitedly. Gabriel sharing about the surgery, and Isabella recounting what it was like living with her mother. "Isa, are you okay at your mum's house?" "Not really. She wants me to forget you and make new friends at the new school." "And are you going to forget?" Isabella held Gabriel's hand tightly. "Never. You're my best friend in the whole world." Mary watched the conversation, touched by the sincerity and purity of their friendship. "Gabriel," Isabella said after a moment, "can I tell you something that no one else knows?" "Sure." "I don't like the new school. The girls there are snobby and only talk about expensive clothes and trips. They laughed at me when I said my best friend lives in South Los Angeles." Gabriel lowered his head, embarrassed. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not a good friend for you." "Gabriel Smith!" Isabella used the authoritative tone she had inherited from her father. "Don't ever say that again. You're the coolest person I know. If they don't understand that, the problem is theirs." Mary smiled, impressed by the girl's maturity. "Isabella," she said, "can I tell you a secret about friendship?" "Sure." True, friends are rare. We can meet many people in life, but few will truly care about us. When you find someone like that, you have to protect that friendship. How do you protect it? By not letting other people say it's wrong. When Robert returned with coffee, sandwiches, and even an ice cream for each child, he found a lighter atmosphere in the room. Gabriel was telling bad jokes to make Isabella laugh, and Mary was smiling for the first time in weeks. "How are you guys?" "Better," Mary replied, gratefully accepting the hot coffee. "Gabriel, did the doctor say when you can leave here?" "Tomorrow morning, if I don't have a fever." "And after that?" Gabriel and Mary exchanged worried glances. "After that, I'll stay home until I'm completely healed," Gabriel said. "How long?" 2 weeks of rest," Mary replied. Robert thought quickly. 2 weeks of Gabriel at home meant 2 weeks of Mary losing work to take care of him. Even if she managed to keep her job, it would be impossible to pay the bills. "Mary, can I make a proposal?" "What kind of proposal?" "Gabriel can stay at my apartment during his recovery. I have a nanny who can take care of him during the day, and I'll be home at night." "Robert, before you say no, think about this. Gabriel needs care, you need to work, and Isabella needs... It's a solution that helps everyone." Mary looked at her son, who was holding Isabella's hand as if it were a lifeline. "And what about the ex-wife? If she finds out?" "The ex-wife doesn't need to know. Gabriel would only be there during the week. On weekends, when Isabella is with her mother, he would come back home with you." Gabriel looked at his mother with hopeful eyes. "Mum, can I? Please." Mary closed her eyes, battling all her defenses and prejudices. She was about to trust her most precious possession to a man she barely knew, driven only by the intuition that he was genuinely good. "All right, but with one condition." "What?" "The first time Gabriel feels uncomfortable or unhappy, he comes home immediately." "I agree." Gabriel and Isabella shouted with joy, carefully hugging each other so as not to hurt their surgical stitches. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mr. Johnson." Robert looked at Mary, seeing in her eyes a mix of fear and hope that mirrored his own feelings. "Mary," he said softly, "you know this could complicate things even more, right?" "I know, but sometimes you have to risk everything to protect what really matters." Outside, the drizzle continued to fall over Los Angeles. But in room 312 of the public hospital, 4 people had decided that love was stronger than fear and that some battles are worth fighting, regardless of the consequences. The war against prejudice was far from over, but they had just won an important battle. The second week of July brought with it a twist that no one had anticipated. The Los Angeles chill seemed to have intensified, and the mornings were shrouded in a dense fog that made visibility difficult on the streets. Gabriel had surprisingly adapted well to the routine in Robert's apartment, dividing his time between post-operative care and long conversations with Isabella after school hours. Robert's housekeeper, Mrs. Johnson, a 60-year-old woman who had worked for the family for over a decade, had initially shown resistance to taking care of the boy from the projects, but quickly surrendered to Gabriel's charm and manners. "Mrs. Johnson," Gabriel said one morning while she prepared his snack, "can I help you with anything?" "No need, my dear, you need to rest." "But I want to help. My mom always says that those who receive kindness should give it back." Mrs. Johnson paused what she was doing and looked at the boy with renewed attention. There was something about him, a genuine humility mixed with dignity, that touched her deeply. "You know, Gabriel, in 40 years of taking care of rich people's homes, I've never seen a child offer help. Usually, they just know how to give orders. That's because they've never needed to help anyone, right? When you don't have much, you learn that everyone has to pitch in." The boy's simple wisdom made Mrs. Johnson rethink many of her own opinions about social class and education. That afternoon, While Gabriel and Isabella did homework together in the living room, the intercom buzzed. It was Mary, who had left work early for a doctor's appointment. "Mum!" Gabriel ran to hug her when she arrived at the apartment. "How are you, my love? Are you eating well? Not bothering anyone?" "I'm great, Mom. Look!" Gabriel proudly showed the math exercises he had completed. "Robert helped me with the hardest part." Mary examined the notebook and was impressed by the quality of the work. There were detailed explanations, well-made diagrams, and handwriting that was visibly improving. "That's beautiful, Gabriel. You're learning a lot. Robert said that if I keep this up, I can try for a scholarship at a better school." Mary felt a knot in her stomach. This was exactly what she feared, Gabriel getting used to possibilities that she couldn't offer. "Gabriel, go play with Isabella for a bit. I want to talk to Robert." When they were alone in the kitchen, Mary got straight to the point. "Robert, you can't keep filling my son's head with these ideas about private school." "Why not? He's incredibly smart, Mary. He has potential for much more than what? Than what his mother achieved." "That's not what I meant." "It is. You think that just because I only finished high school, I can't provide a good education for my son." Robert ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "Mary, you're twisting my words. I admire you so much, and the incredible job you've done raising Gabriel. I just think he deserves every opportunity possible. And you think you can offer those opportunities? If you let me, yes." The direct answer caught Mary off guard. There was something in Robert's voice that went beyond simple kindness. "Robert, what do you really want from us?" Robert fell silent for a long moment, struggling with feelings he had been suppressing for weeks. I don't know for sure. I just know that since I met you two, my life makes more sense. Gabriel has taught me about courage. You have shown me what true dignity means. And Isabella is happy for the first time since the divorce." "That doesn't answer my question." Robert looked directly into Mary's eyes. "Mary, do you want the truth?" "I do. I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know what to do about it." The silence that followed was deafening. Mary felt her heart race, a mix of panic and something she dared not name. "Robert, I know it's complicated. I know we come from different worlds, but I can't pretend it's just about the kids." Mary placed her hand on her prominent belly, where the baby was moving restlessly, as if sensing her emotional tension. "Are you serious?" "Completely. Robert, look at me, really look. I'm a pregnant housekeeper without a husband, barely able to pay the bills. You're a millionaire businessman. This isn't a movie. It's real life. And in real life, people fall in love regardless of money. In real life, rich people get tired of playing with the poor and return to their usual world." The bitterness in Marina's voice revealed old wounds that Rodrigo didn't know about. "Have you been through this before?" Marina hesitated, but decided it was time to tell the truth. Gabriel's father was a lawyer, rich, handsome, charming. He met me when I was working as a waitress at one of his firm's events. For 6 months, he made me believe he was different, that love conquered all, until I found out I was pregnant. What happened? He offered me money to have an abortion. When I refused, he disappeared. Later, I found out he married his partner's daughter, someone suitable for his social standing. Rodrigo felt a dull anger rising in his chest. "Marina, I'm not him." "You all say the same thing at first." "And the father of this baby?" Marina lowered her head, ashamed. "A co-worker, married. He said he would leave his wife to be with me." A lie, of course. When he found out about the pregnancy, he fired me from the company we worked at together. My God, Marina. Now, do you understand why I can't trust you? Why I'm afraid of what's happening with my child? Rodrigo stepped closer to her, stopping at a respectful distance. "Marina, I understand your distrust, and I won't promise it will be easy or that there won't be obstacles. But I can promise you one thing. I will never abandon you. Never. How can you be sure? Because you both changed me. Before I met you and Gabriel, I was on autopilot, work, money, appearances. Now I see the world differently. I see what really matters. Marina wanted to believe, but the scars of the past were too deep. Rodrigo, even if you were sincere, what if your family doesn't accept it? What if your friends laugh? What if this interferes with your business? Then I'll find out who my true friends and family are. At that moment, Gabriel and Isabella appeared in the kitchen, interrupting the tense conversation. "Mom, are you okay? You look sad," said Gabriel, rushing to hug her. "I'm fine, my love. Just a little tired." "Mrs. Marina," Isabella said shyly, "can I say something?" "Of course, dear." "Thank you for letting Gabriel stay here. I was so lonely without him." The sincerity of the girl touched Marina's heart. "Gabriel was also sad without you, Isa. Mrs. Marina, do you think one day we can be a real family? Me, Dad, Gabriel and you?" Isabella's innocent question struck Marina like lightning. For the first time, she glimpsed a possibility she had refused to consider. "Isa, these things are complicated, but not impossible, right?" Marina looked at Rodrigo, who was watching the scene, with eyes shining with emotion. "Not impossible," she admitted softly. Gabriel took his mother's hand and Isabella's hand, bringing them together. "There, now we're a family." Rodrigo placed his hand over the intertwined hands of the children and Marina, creating a circle of warmth that seemed to protect them from the cold world outside. "Gabriel is right," he said gently. "Family isn't just about blood. It's about love and choice." Marina felt tears streaming down her face, finally allowing herself to dream of a happiness she thought was impossible for someone like her. Outside, Los Angeles continued its frantic routine, indifferent to the small miracles happening in luxurious apartments and wounded hearts. But for four people who had chosen to love beyond social conventions, that moment marked the beginning of something entirely new, a family built on foundations of genuine love and unconditional acceptance. The future was still uncertain, and many battles still needed to be fought, but for the first time, they would face those battles together. December arrived in Los Angeles, bringing with it the suffocating heat of summer and the typical hustle and bustle of the holiday season. The smell of gingerbread mingled with the aroma of roasted peanuts from street vendors, creating a festive atmosphere that contrasted with the tension that had dominated the past months. The city was preparing for Christmas and New Year, but for the two families that fate had united, the last months had been an emotional roller coaster that tested all limits. Marina's baby was born in September, a healthy boy named Michael, chosen by Gabriel because it meant one who is like God. The delivery had been difficult, and Rodrigo had been present at the hospital all night, holding Marina's hand as she struggled to bring her second child into the world. When Michael finally arrived, crying loudly with his fists clenched, Rodrigo felt an emotion he didn't expect. Unconditional love for a child who wasn't biologically his, but whom he already considered part of his family. Patricia had intensified her psychological warfare, using every encounter with Isabella to plant seeds of doubt about her father and his inappropriate new friends. She had hired detectives to follow Rodrigo and document every moment he spent with Marina and the children. The photographs piled up in organized folders that she intended to use in court to prove that Rodrigo did not provide a stable environment for Isabella. "Isabella, you need to understand that your father is going through a phase," Patricia said one Saturday morning while watching her daughter play distractedly with an expensive doll. "Men sometimes make wrong choices when they are emotionally confused. Dad isn't confused, Mom. He's happy. He thinks he's happy. But this woman is taking advantage of his good nature. You're too young to understand. But poor people sometimes use children to get money from rich people. Isabella, now 8 years old and visibly more mature after everything she had experienced, looked at her mother with an expression that surprised her. "Mom, Mrs. Marina never asked Dad for anything, and Gabriel is my best friend, no matter what you say. Isabella, you're too young to—" "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "Have you seen Gabriel and Mrs. Marina up close? Have you talked to them?" Patricia hesitated. The truth was that her opposition was entirely based on prejudices and hearsay. "I don't need to meet them in person to know they're not suitable for our family." "Then how can you be sure they're bad if you've never even spoken to them?" The simple and logical question from a child exposed the irrationality of Patricia's entire stance. For the first time, she found herself without a convincing answer. That same day, on the other side of the city, Marina faced her own internal demons. The apartment in South Los Angeles had been replaced by a small but comfortable house that Robert had secured for them through a company social program. Officially, it was a benefit for employees, but everyone knew it had been specially arranged for Marina. "Mom," said Gabriel while rocking little Michael, "are you worried about something?" Marina watched her eldest son, now 11 years old and clearly taller and more mature, taking care of his little brother with a tenderness that moved her daily. "Why do you ask?" "Because you keep staring into space and sighing, just like you did before Michael was born." Marina smiled. Gabriel had developed an impressive emotional perception, always attuned to his mother's moods. "I'm just thinking about the future, my love." "What kind of future?" Marina hesitated. How could she explain to a child the complexities of a social interracial relationship that challenged all conventions? "Gabriel, do you like living here, having Robert and Isabella in our lives?" "I like it a lot, Mom. Robert is like a dad to me, and she's like a sister." "And what if people think it's wrong? What if they say we shouldn't be together?" Gabriel carefully placed Michael in the crib and approached his mother. "Mom, do you remember what you always taught me?" "What?" "That it doesn't matter what people say if you know you're doing the right thing. Are you happy with Robert?" "I am." "And does he treat you well?" "He does." "And does he like Michael and me?" "He likes you both a lot." "Then it's right. The rest is just gossip from people who have nothing better to do." The simple wisdom of her 11-year-old son made Marina realize that she was complicating something that, at its core, was very simple. Two people who loved each other trying to build a happy family. That night, Robert came home with a serious expression that immediately caught Marina's attention. "Did something happen?" "I received a court summons today. Patricia filed a motion for full custody of Isabella. The hearing is next week." Marina felt her stomach tighten. It was what she had feared from the beginning, that her relationship with Robert would harm Isabella. "Robert, maybe it's better to—" "No." Robert was firm. "We're not giving up now. I hired the best family lawyer in Los Angeles. We will fight. And what if we lose? And what if we win?" Gabriel, who was doing homework at the kitchen table, looked up. "Does Isa know about the hearing?" "She does. She will have to talk to the judge." "And what will she say?" Robert smiled for the first time that day. "That she wants to live with me, and that you guys are part of her family now." The week leading up to the hearing passed in a blur of anxiety and preparations. Robert's lawyer, Dr. Robert Smith, was an experienced man who had seen many similar cases throughout his career. "Mr. Johnson, I need to be honest with you. The case won't be easy. Patricia has solid arguments from a traditional standpoint: financial stability, a conventional family environment, absence of social complications. And on our side, We have the child's expressed desire and the fact that she is happy and well adjusted to the current situation, but the judge may consider that an 8-year-old does not have the maturity to make this kind of decision. And Marina and the kids, they will be called as witnesses. Patricia will certainly try to portray Marina as someone who is financially using you. Robert clenched his fists. Marina never asked anything from me. Everything I did was of my own will. I know, Mr. Johnson, but this needs to be made very clear during the testimony. The day of the hearing dawned grey and rainy. Marina had spent the entire night awake, nursing Michael and trying to calm her own nerves. Gabriel was visibly anxious, but tried to maintain his composure so as not to worry his mother further. "Marina," said Robert, as they prepared to leave for family court, "no matter what happens today, I want you to know that these have been the happiest months of my life." "Robert, let me finish. If we lose today, I will accept the decision for Isabella, but I won't give up on you and the boys. We will find another way." Marina held Robert's face in her hands. "I love you," she said for the first time. "I took a while to accept it, but I truly love you." Robert kissed her, softly, ignoring Gabriel, who pretended to be busy organizing the baby's backpack, but was smiling discreetly. The family court was crowded that morning. Patricia had arrived accompanied by her lawyer and her mother, an elegant lady who looked at Marina and the children with barely concealed disdain. Isabella was visibly nervous, gripping her father's hand as she observed all the serious adults around her. "Daddy," she whispered, "what if the judge doesn't understand?" "Then you will explain it to him, Princess. You just need to tell the truth." The hearing began with the lawyers' testimonies. Patricia's representative carefully built a case based on stability, tradition, and the best interest of the child, arguing that Robert was exposing Isabella to inappropriate influences and emotional instability. "Your Honor," said Patricia's lawyer, "no. We are questioning the goodness of these people, but rather whether it is appropriate to expose an elite child to social realities for which she is unprepared. The minor risks developing inappropriate feelings of guilt about her own social position, in addition to being unconsciously used as a bridge for these people to access financial benefits." Dr. Robert passionately countered with concrete data. "Your Honor, what we see here is not a child being exploited, but rather a girl who has found an extended family that loves her unconditionally. Isabella's grades have improved, she shows greater social empathy, and she is visibly happier. We are talking about genuine love, not financial interest." It was then time for the parties to give their testimonies. Patricia was eloquent and convincing, presenting herself as a devoted mother who only wanted to protect her daughter from influences that could harm her development. Mary took the witness stand with Michael in her arms, visibly nervous but determined to speak the truth. "Mrs. Smith," began the judge, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, "can you tell us how you met Dr. Robert?" Mary recounted the entire story, from the accident to the present moment, with an honesty that touched everyone in the courtroom. When Patricia's lawyer tried to insinuate financial interest, her response was straightforward. "Sir, I have been working since I was 14. I raised my son Gabriel alone for 10 years, and I have never asked anyone for favors. What I feel for Robert has nothing to do with money. It has to do with love and respect. But you do not deny that you have benefited financially from this relationship. Robert has helped me, yes, like anyone who cares for another would help, but I continue to work. I maintain my independence, and all important decisions regarding my children are mine." Gabriel was called to testify and impressed everyone with his articulation and maturity. "Gabriel," the judge asked, "how do you feel about your mother's relationship with Dr. Robert?" "I feel happy, Your Honor. Robert treats my mom with care and respect, and he treats me like a father would treat a son, not a father who gives money and disappears, but a father who talks, who teaches, who cares. And what about Isabella? Gabriel smiled. Isa is my best friend. We understand each other even though we come from different families. She doesn't care that I live in a simple house, and I don't care that she has expensive toys. We like each other for who we are, not for what we have. Finally, it was time for Isabella to testify. The 8-year-old girl took the witness stand with a determination that surprised everyone present. Isabella, the judge said gently, do you understand why you are here? I do. My mom and dad want to decide where I will live. And do you have a preference? I do. I want to live with my dad. Why? Isabella took a deep breath, as if she had rehearsed this moment. Because with my dad I can be myself. He doesn't care if I play with Gabriel, who is poor, or if I lend my toys to the kids in the building. With my mom, I have to pretend to be someone I'm not. And what do you think of Mary and her children? Isabella's eyes lit up. They are my family now. Mrs. Smith teaches me that being rich doesn't make me better than anyone, and that money isn't the most important thing in the world. Gabriel teaches me that we can be happy even without having everything. And Michael, her voice choked with emotion. Michael is like my little brother. I help take care of him. Isabella, don't you think it would be easier to live only with people from your same social background? The question caught the girl by surprise, but her answer was clear. Your Honor, do you have children? I do. Do you love them because they are rich or poor? I love them because they are my children. Then you understand. I love my family because they love me, not because they are rich or poor. The judge remained silent for a long moment, visibly moved by the child's wisdom. After hearing all the testimonies and analyzing the evidence, Judge Dr. Marcelo Fernandez retired to deliberate. The wait lasted 2 hours, which felt like 2 eternities. When he finally returned, his expression was serious, but not hostile. This has been one of the most difficult decisions I have ever had to make in my career, he began. We are dealing with complex issues that go far beyond a simple custody dispute. Everyone held their breath. After hearing all the testimonies and analyzing the evidence, I have concluded that Isabella's best interest is to remain primarily in her father's custody, with regular visits to her mother. Patricia made a move to protest, but the judge raised his hand. My decision is based on the following factors. First, the child's expressed and consistent desire. Second, her positive adaptation to the current situation. Third, the absence of any evidence that she is being harmed emotionally or educationally. And fourth, the clear demonstration that she is learning important values of empathy and citizenship. The judge looked directly at Mary. Mrs. Smith, I want to congratulate you on the exemplary upbringing of your children and the dignity with which you have conducted this process. It is rare to see such integrity in such complex situations. He then turned to Patricia. Dr. Patricia, I understand your concerns, but true love knows no social class. Your daughter is learning about real life in a way that will benefit her enormously in the future. Finally, he addressed Robert. Dr. Robert, I hope you understand the responsibility you have, not only to Isabella, but to this entire family you have chosen to form. I will be monitoring the development of this situation. As they left the family court, the sun had broken through the clouds, creating a rainbow over the city of Los Angeles. Gabriel held Isabella's hand. Mary carried Michael, and Robert wrapped everyone in a group hug in the middle of the sidewalk, indifferent to the curious looks from passers-by. Now we are a real family, said Isabella, with tears of joy streaming down her face. We always were, replied Gabriel. We just needed the adults to understand. 6 months later, on a warm morning during the Los Angeles Carnival, the same family walked through the city center, watching the street parades and smelling the mix of chicken nuggets and soda in the festive air. Michael, now 6 months old, slept peacefully in Robert's arms, while Gabriel and Isabella ran ahead, pointing at the costumed revelers. Mary wore a simple yet beautiful dress, a gift from Robert that she had initially hesitated to accept, but now wore with pride. Not because it was expensive, but because it represented the love and care of someone who saw her as a woman, not as a social project. "Mary," said Robert, placing his free arm around her waist, "do you regret anything?" "I regret taking so long to accept that I deserve to be happy. And I regret taking so long to understand what really matters in life." Gabriel and Isabella came running back, breathless and smiling. "Dad, can you buy us cotton candy?" Isabella asked. "Of course, Princess." Gabriel looked at Mary, still unsure of how he should address Robert. "Gabriel," said Robert, noticing the boy's hesitation, "you can call me Dad too if you want. You are my son, just as much as Michael and Isabella." Gabriel's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "Thank you, Dad." As he watched his 3 children, because now there were 3, playing together in the midst of the carnival crowd, Robert reflected on how destiny had a mysterious way of bringing together people who needed each other. A near miss between a Tesla and a children's bicycle had forever changed the course of 4 lives. It had taught that true love knows no social boundaries, that dignity cannot be bought with money, and that the best families are those built on foundations of mutual respect and unconditional acceptance. Gabriel had become the son that Robert never knew he wanted, brave, compassionate, and wise beyond his years. Isabella had found in Mary a motherly figure who taught her about strength and humility. Mary had discovered that it was possible to love again without losing her independence, and Michael would grow up in a family where love and diversity walked hand in hand. The story that had begun with fear and prejudice ended with hope and love. Because sometimes, when we least expect it, destiny introduces us to people who change our perspective on everything we thought we knew about life. And sometimes, just sometimes, love really does conquer all. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and if you watched until here, comment "I watched until here" and share your opinion about this story. And don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the final screen. It's very emotional.